We're live!
You're live.
Live from Utah and Washington. It's Thursday night.
Always a fun time.
Yes.
All right.
Alrighty.
So we start with week 7, chapter 3.
Yes.
All right. I can go first. What is the purpose of program evaluation? There were 6 of them, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I had assessment of participant progress, guiding program decisions, refining program processes, specifying effective program elements, establishment of specific viewpoints, establishing the merit of specific viewpoints, and maximizing program effects. Is that what you had too?
Yep.
Sweet.
All right. Why is it important to have clear understanding of your vision and the program? Oh, the screen is small, sorry. Goals and objectives for your FLE program before assessing the FLE program. So I put vision statements are shared expressions between everyone. Vision statements make it clear what the program wants to accomplish as an end result. They provide focus for everyone that is involved and keep that focus when it could get off track. It helps to guide the goals and objectives, which the goals are more specific than the vision and they express the general purpose. Objectives are where our thinking gets more clear and specific, and it needs to be specific enough to be measured and describe some action or knowledge that our participant will gain by participating in the program.
Sweet. I had a lot of the same stuff that you did. I also had that objectives must match mission, and evaluation items must match the objectives, and objectives must be suitable for the specific audience in reading level and appropriateness of target behavior, which I thought was interesting. That was mentioned a couple times that like some of the people you're helping might not be at a what you would say an average level would be as far as comprehension or maybe literacy. So that was something to keep in mind. And another thing I put down was that it's important to keep your objectives in mind, because if the example they used is if the objective is to build stress techniques, but instead teaches car repair, and for evaluation measures the height and weight of participants, then it's meaningless. So it's all got to line up. The objective and the teaching and the evaluation, they all have to be on the same page for it to work.
Yes. Which I think is good. Like, so the vision helps you see where you want to go. It kind of narrows it down, and then the evaluation can make sure that you've reached your vision. So it all works.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it can get off kilter. Like because sometimes it's easy to lose focus when there's so many variables spinning around.
Yeah, and if I remember, it had talked about when you have lots of people involved, they don't always have the same vision, or
Yes.
so those goals and the objectives can help narrow it and focus it back down. So
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I got lots of notes, but
all right, are we moving on?
yeah, I got tons of notes, but I don't think they really answer the question any better than what we already said.
Okay.
So the next one was, what are some of the basic things that you want to know about your workshop thing in order to improve the program's effectiveness? And what questions would you need to have answered and improve the program? And that's where my list of questions came from that we used for the for our, what do we call that?
The assessment.
Assessment. I was going to say summary, but I was like, that's not.
Well, and your list and my list, we had a lot of the same questions. So I think we were both trying to get to the same place. So
Right. And mostly what we talked about was, we went over our objectives, our learning objectives from the beginning, right?
uh-huh.
We wanted to know about the pace of it, if the pace felt right, if there was enough variety to keep people interested, and how much they enjoyed the different learning tools that we used.
Yeah.
We also wanted to know if they felt like it was pertinent to them, whether they were a leader or a parent, if it felt, if the information was pertinent to them, they felt it was directed to them.
And we did ask things to relate back to our learning goals to make sure that we had maybe accomplished those, to see if they felt that we had accomplished them.
Yeah. And also, if, I thought we did a really good job in our assessment of going back to those goals and being more specific about each part.
Yeah. I agree.
And we wanted to know if like their attitudes changed. That was another thing. Like, did they honestly feel more optimism as a result of this? Do they honestly have a greater appreciation because of what we talked about?
Yeah. And I think I had a note somewhere that it talked about that sometimes assessing your program can be, oh, we have to do it for funding or we have to do it for whatever, but it is a tool, a good tool to use to improve and know if you're on the right track.
Right.
Which I think we've done that with our assessment. I think it wasn't just because we had to do it, but it's something that the questions that we asked is because that's what we really want to know.
Right. We wanted to know did we hit our marks, you know?
Yeah.
We did our best, but did it work? Was it really effective?
Yeah. And I think that would help us. So if we needed to change, not that we're going to have time to change in between when we teach both of them, but if we were to ever do it again, it would help us to see what we could do to improve. So.
Right. So I don't want to waste people's time, you know, like if they're coming to this class, it's because they feel a need, they have a need, and we're presenting it to try and help them in that need. And so to waste both of our time, you know, is ridiculous. The point is that it's effective.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, should we move on? In a nutshell, what is your plan for assessing your family life education program? Well, we've already talked about it, but we're doing a questionnaire to see if we've met our learning goals and if we've changed attitudes and how the experience was for them as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Okay, which brings us to week 8.
Yay.
How can the FLE Code of Ethics strengthen your practice and the relationships with those whom you teach? I thought that it helps them to trust you when you operate from a strong code of ethics. It helps you to treat them with respect, and it gives you confidence in the decisions that you make because your choices are based on solid principles that are recognized by the field.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
What specific principles captured your attention and why? I really liked the part where it was talking about the virtue ethics and the characteristics that are most important. And I think when you have the 3 that they talked about, which was caring, prudence, and hope and optimism,
Mm-hmm.
that will definitely help you to be stronger. I think sometimes, maybe not so much. I was thinking about the stuff that we read this week about family life education and the borders between that and therapy. But I think sometimes it can be, especially with a need, that it can get a little down. And if you can bring hope and optimism and show people that there's a different way to do things, or that maybe what they're doing isn't necessarily bad, but there's other ways that the same whatever situation could be applied to, that I think that's important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just to keep that, you're not going to help people unless they know that they can, that you believe in them. Really, I think is what it comes down to, and that goes a long way for that.
Yeah. And you have to be genuine. I think you can care about people, but you have to genuinely care about them and want them to be better and to succeed. And I think that's one thing to remember, is that it's not just I'm here to do it because I'm getting paid, or I'm here to do it because I have to do it for my grade, but that it's
Yeah,
a genuine, you really want to help people.
right. And then that you also really believe that it can really make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
That I think, like, believing that people really do want the best for their families. Even if maybe they don't have, they're not making good choices right now, maybe, or they don't have the ability to yet. That's really what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, at their core, they really want. Most people really do want to do good for their families.
No, I definitely agree with that.
So I put down some of the number principles. This one I kind of already talked about. It says, I will respect and accept parents and other family members for who they are, recognizing their developmental level and circumstances. Like, when you think about the range of people you could be working with, like sometimes it's easy to write people off and just say, well, they're an idiot, or really look down on people because maybe they don't have the same education that you do or the same capacities that you do. But it's important to remember that we're all Heavenly Father's children. We've all been given different challenges, and we can't, we've never walked in their shoes, We can't say you're just an idiot. We don't know what they've been up against.
That's very true.
I don't know, like sometimes even just like out shopping, you look at people with their kids and you're like, who gave you the right to have children? Sometimes,
Yeah.
And you just have to find respect for people, because you don't know what they've been dealt.
That's really true.
Because you start thinking about some of those people and you're just like, wow.
That is very true. It's easy to make judgments, but if you're trying to teach people, then you really can't make those.
No, not and be successful. You gotta
Yeah.
just spend all that judgment. What's another one I had? I really liked number 10, and I didn't write down which section it was in, but it was really helpful for me in those ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
A really important thing to keep in mind where it says, I will include parents and other family members as partners in problem solving and decision making related to program design and implementation. And I would, you can just say in problem solving in general, if you just make a decision but don't have any buy-in from the rest of the family, you're not going anywhere. If your decision doesn't show respect for the system that's in place, it's never going to be successful in the long term.
Yeah.
So I thought that one was really important. And this other one, number 2, I'll strive to understand children and youth in the context of their families. This brought to mind a situation in Young Women's a few years back. we set up this activity, and it was a sewing activity, and they had to bring scissors, and some of them had to bring sewing machines. Well, some of the girls weren't able to bring their stuff, and the other leader that was with me like freaked out on them and was like, if you guys don't bring your supplies, if you don't bring your stuff, we can't have awesome activities. And I'm trying to plan awesome activities. But if you girls don't do your part, we can't have awesome activities. And I was just like, you know what? It's not all up to the girls. Like, they have family situations that they're dealing with, and they have parents who are stressed out and crazy, and it's not all their fault. You know, you gotta, if you put that much pressure on the girls, they're already facing pressure from home. You're creating way more stress than you need to over something that they don't have complete control over. So that just brought that to mind for me.
Yeah, I think that's one thing is when you start to stop and think about it, you have to put yourself in the other people's shoes. Like what may be like common sense to one person isn't the same for another because of their background or their whatever. So
Exactly.
No, I do that like with my husband in the car. We'll be driving and somebody will like cut him off or whatever, and he's like starts calling names. I'm like, oh, maybe they're on their way to the hospital to have a baby. You don't know,
Right.
or maybe grandma just died, or maybe, and he's like, stop it.
Just let them be an idiot.
Maybe they really are an idiot, but you don't know what's going on in their life right now.
You don't know. The next one is, what questions do you have related to the code of ethics for FLE? And my question was related to what we learned this week, because I said I still didn't think that there was quite enough clarity between what's therapeutic and what's FLE. Like, it still seemed a little hazy. It said kind of stay out of therapeutic, but it's like, well, how do you define that? Like, if they start talking about their problems, what I'm just supposed to say, no, shut up, you know?
Sorry, I'm not trained in this area.
Yeah. So I needed a little more clarification there, and we got more clarification this week.
Yeah, I didn't really have any questions. I understand. Like at first, I was like, "Why? What's the point?" But after reading it, I'm like, "Okay, that's why we need a code of ethics for it. It's because I think it can get into a gray area sometimes because it's not always just happy-go-lucky. We're teaching parenting. You know, that's not the only family life education stuff that's out there. So,
Right. Well, especially when you start thinking about situations where you're going into homes and stuff, you know, where it's not just like a super controlled environment, and you're not getting a lot of feedback. Like, you're actually in their environment.
yeah.
You have to be a lot more careful in those situations.
Yeah, that's very true. All right. How is your value system likely to influence you as you teach? I kind of struggled a little bit with this one because I am caring and I want other people to succeed, and I really do think more about other people more than like myself, and I firmly believe that education is a good way to um, help other people and to change lives and to do things, you know. And I think because I have a strong LDS background and I was raised to respect other people, that would really help me as I teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do confrontation, so I just kind of sometimes agree with everybody to avoid confrontation, which could be a bad thing sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think having a strong LDS background with a strong value system, because I was raised that way, supports family life education, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think I chose this field because of my value system. Because for me, it was, well, my coming to this degree thing is the result of a lot of life changes, you know,
Mm-hmm.
getting divorced and having to find a way to support myself now completely. To me, and having been a stay-at-home mom my whole life up to this point, and that always being what I wanted to do. Like, that was always from the time I was little, I wanted to be a mom. And that was just fine with me. Like, I didn't feel like I was belittled by that or limited by that. That's just all I've ever wanted to do. So once I was kind of put in the situation where now I need to find work outside of the home. This felt like I was still continuing with the same value system I've always had my whole life, that I was still, you know, a supporter of families, a supporter of children, a supporter of marriage, but now I was going to get paid for it.
Right?
Exactly what I need. Um, so to me, like I said, it's just an extension of my value system is choosing this field.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So the next question is, how would you approach working with someone who has very different, even contradicting values from your own? The things I put were seek understanding, assume common interests, and with a great deal of respect. I liked, it's talked in the reading somewhere about how you can have your beliefs that you can have your belief system, and then you have like your work. It wasn't like a work belief system. How did they say it? Do you remember that part where it was like, um, you can operate in your personal life one way, but then, like, especially in the area of, like, it reminded me of like the area of homosexuality. Like, so you don't agree with homosexuality, that's contrary to your belief system, but in the work environment you kind of have to adopt your, and well, I think you do this in your personal life too, but you adopt this larger understanding of, um, I'm here to help you in your belief system, you know, like, um, I'm not here to change your values. I'm just here to help you, sort of a thing.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of principles outside of homosexuality being wrong that are my values that still pertain to their situation. Like, you know, treating people with respect and treating yourself with respect. You know, it's those bigger kinds of things pertain to all of it, I think.
Yeah, I put respect. I think that's a huge one, especially for this one, because not everybody is going to believe the same way. And really, that's kind of what makes this world awesome, is that not everybody thinks the same way and not everybody feels the same way. And doing one thing one way doesn't make it the right way. There's lots of different ways to approach everything. And so, and I think the world is lacking in respect in a lot of ways. And so
Definitely.
you can approach having different, even contradicting values and still be friends and still have relationships and still be okay. I also put that I think it's important to look for the strength of their contradicting and praise them for those strengths.
Yeah.
I think if you can try and find some common ground, that's always a good thing.
Right. Well, and they might not be as contradictory as they appear from the outside, from the onset, you know. Um, like getting down to root things like love, you know, that they really do want the best for the people that they love. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so finding that common ground that we're really both trying to do best for our families, or we're both trying to make our lives better, and we may not see eye to eye on how to do that, but we're both trying to do the same thing, basically.
right.
Yeah. All right, as you provide family life education, regardless of whether you are developing and teaching a family life education workshop or you are teaching through the family relations program, do you foresee any potential ethical dilemmas arising? And if so, what are the dilemmas? So the only one that I don't know that will really be any ethical dilemmas, but the only one that I could see arising is with the parenting styles and focusing solely on one that's the best one. And Sister Beale had said, make sure you say that we're all doing the same thing, we're all trying to, and point out the positives of the other ones.
Yeah. When I remember that in some of my classes, there was like a presentation of what the positives were of each. And I'm hoping to see if I can.
Yeah.
Don't you remember? It was kind of presented that way.
Yeah.
There's kind of pros and cons, and our slide didn't present it that way, but I know I've seen it before, so I'm hoping to find that.
Ooh, that would be good. I'll have to look through my stuff and see if I can find it.
Yeah. One that I thought that might come up it could come up, the idea of like a leader's role as far as keeping confidences of the youth. Or the leader, kind of getting in between the youth and the parents. But I think what we're trying to show is that that you are an aid to the parents and that you're all on the same team. But
yeah,
like as we're talking about these communication strategies, like if a leader is getting the youth to communicate with them more than the parent is, what do you do if they share something with you that really the parent ought to know about, but the kid isn't sharing? So
yeah, that can be a tricky one.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the next question is, in the first complete paragraph on page 193, Palm explained that there are two different approaches to ethics. As stated, the ethics approach encourages individuals to be sensitive to the effects of their intervention on the welfare of others. They strive to follow a set of ideal standards in their practice. Then Palm went on to state that the Code of Ethics for Family Life Educators was designed in the spirit of aspiration ethics versus mandatory ethics. How does this sensitivity to the effects of one's intervention on the welfare of others create a higher standard than what mandatory ethics may provide? I said I like the phrase increased sensitivity to describe the effect of a code of ethics, because that kind of suggests an internal monitor. You're looking for ways to support the code of ethics rather than just trying to make sure you don't get caught doing something wrong. And so that makes people in a place where they are monitoring themselves and making their own corrections much more frequently and proactively than if it's just well, once a year someone's going to come check on you or something like that.
Right.
It's about the internal monitor.
I missed this question somehow, so I don't have an answer for it.
Oh.
I'm like, how did I miss this one?
Yeah.
So
that's funny. So we'll just go on to the next one.
Go. So yes, I agree with everything you said.
You're just doing that because you're trying to avoid conflict.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Let's see. The Code of Ethics for Family Life Educators integrates 3 approaches to ethics. One of these approaches include virtue ethics, which has to do with the makeup of who you are as an individual, including dispositions to do the right thing for the right reasons. 3 specific virtues have been highlighted: caring, practical wisdom, and hope optimism. What dispositions, virtues, or qualities do you have that you believe will help you not only to be an effective family life educator, but will also help you to maintain a high ethical standard. We kind of already talked about our dispositions a little bit.
No, we did, huh?
Yeah, but like I'm always looking for the good in, and just that's just naturally I'm always looking for the good in people, and
Mhm.
I probably lean more towards like I trust easily and I believe easily. So if somebody tells me something, I just take their word for it
Uh-huh.
and I don't question them as much. Um, I I have this like drive to help people. So like if I don't know an answer, I'm always trying to find somebody else who can answer a question or who can help or who can, if I can't do it. So
Uh-huh.
I think that definitely will help me to maintain a high ethical standard, just having those qualities.
Yeah, definitely. It will definitely help you. Um, I think I'm a pretty empathetic person. That's I jump into other people's situations pretty easily and identify with their feelings pretty easily. Um, so in that way, I won't have trouble with that. And also, I want people to operate from their strengths. I want to see the best in people and think the best of them. I also have respect for different circumstances. I think I really, I mean, I have to catch myself every now and again, but in general, I understand that people have been dealt different cards than everybody's been dealt a different set of cards, and we're all just trying to do the best we can. Um, and I think that'll help me.
And a lot of that I think comes from life experience too, knowing
Mm-hmm.
that life doesn't always turn out the way you plan it to, even as
Yes.
much as you think it's going to go this way and it never really does. So I think that definitely will help you
Mm-hmm.
and probably
Well,
you.
yeah, and it helps. I think anyone who's, like not fresh out of high school, someone who's coming to a degree like this with a more mature experience is going to have a big advantage.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about that. Like talking to some of the schools, the graduate programs, they're all like, mature students definitely have the advantage. Life experience is a big leg up in this program, and I'm like, yes,
That's awesome.
yeah. And a lot, I mean, they talk about how they turn away so many people, but then so the groups they end up with are largely made up of more mature students. And
Really?
yeah, so that's comforting too, because I don't it it can be difficult if you're in a room with a bunch of 20 somethings, and they're just not grasping it, It's fun to help them grasp it sometimes, but to not feel like the odd man out will just kind of make a more cohesive, um, what do they call those? A group that you go through.
Oh, the cohort?
Cohort. Yes, thank you. Cohort. It'll be a more cohesive cohort, so I'm kind of excited about that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Good for you for going on to graduate school. I
No.
really thought about it and then I was like, oh, I don't think I can do it anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of done.
I know. If I didn't feel like I had to, it would be real tempting to just be done. But
Yeah.
I just don't feel like I can stop. Like if I don't get to that next level, that therapeutic level that we're not supposed to go into right now, I just don't think I can be happy. It's just not where I'm meant to go. So,
See, everyone has a path. I don't know.
yeah.
I thought about it and I was like, can I do it? Should I do it? I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe I'll do it again in the future, but right now I'm like, ugh, I can't.
No, I'm absolutely terrified. I'm completely terrified because I mean, I thought a full load of credits was drinking through a fire hose, but this is like a full load of credits at the university and an internship at the same time with my.
Uh,
I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I
no
know I have.
sweat. You can do
Yeah,
it.
I just will. I'll just get on the conveyor belt and keep running.
And it's probably good that you don't have, I mean, you have little kids, but not little kids.
Oh yeah, definitely good. They're at a good age where they're in school. They're not babies. They and I have two babysitters. My two older ones can both watch the little ones. So,
Yeah, that definitely helps.
mhm.
And it's not going to be forever. So if it takes a couple years of what, it's not forever.
It's not forever. That's right. So we're to week 9.
Yay!
Hurrah! So is it your turn?
I don't remember. I can do it. In a nutshell, what was the basic purpose or goal of the article from Myers-Walls et al.? I feel like that one built upon the other article from Doherty,
Yeah.
and it just kind of clarified it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I love the charts and stuff they used.
yes.
That was really helpful. And I did like that it gave a lot of balance to it, that they had the 3 different fields. Um, yeah, it was a really cool article. And I think the
Yeah,
basic purpose was to differentiate and to also get rid of the idea of a hierarchy. Like,
yes.
you have to be a much better person to be able to do this kind of stuff. It's just we're all doing different things and all have different skill sets.
I liked how it showed how they each does its own thing. Like family life education is here, but therapy also encompasses family life education. So they're not totally separate. They each have their program. And then the other one, the family
Case management.
social work stuff, yeah. That has that they all kind of work together. I liked how that
Yeah, that circle
yeah.
diagram was amazing.
Yeah,
That
I
was,
really liked that one.
that was really clear. So the next one says, what connections do Myers, Walls et al. Have with Doherty's model? So we're talking about that already. And do you agree or disagree, and why? So they said that it doesn't accurately describe FLE, which was true to a point. I thought that it didn't define boundaries and differentiations that they would hope for, um, and it was incomplete because it only addresses the domains of family life education and family therapy, and it needs to include the family case management.
Yeah.
And I when I read the first one, those concerns didn't jump to my mind. Like, I wasn't like, oh, this is saying that family therapists are better than family life educators. Like, I never really I didn't take that away from it. But when they said it and when they applied it and they started showing the way that we all complement each other and we're just different and we can actually help each other, and that it assumed that a family therapist has the skills of a family life educator, um, that really did click with me. I think that's really true. You can't just assume, because there are a lot of specific skills as far as education and a breadth of understanding that we get in a family life education background, that a therapist doesn't necessarily have.
That's
Um,
very true.
you can go into a counseling major with a degree in communications, or even, I mean, it doesn't even have to be psychology or communications. It could be anything. They look some more at life experience and stuff before they accept you into the program. So our background is really,
Yes, that's very true. Is that my turn?
Yeah.
What is your role and responsibilities in working with families as FLE? If you had to choose 3 words to best describe the role of FLE, what would they be? Well, I think my 3 words are they kind of encompass what the role and responsibilities are with these articles that we've been reading and with the ethics and stuff too. So I put to educate, to care, and to respect. And so I think that the role is to teach, to educate people, and to care for people, and you have to respect them, like we've been talking about for the last little bit. So I think that's really the role and responsibility. But I also think that those 3 words could carry over to a therapist and to the family case too.
Yeah, they could. Yeah. I think, but they didn't say they had to differentiate, so I think your words are good. Um, the, this was hard for me. Your role and responsibilities working with them. And I was trying to search through the list of descriptions of the role that they gave. Um, 3 words that I found in there that I liked were information, tools, and strategies. Um, so those aren't my words, they're theirs, but I thought they were good because to me that does kind of differentiate us a little bit. That we're information is because we're there to educate, but we are also there to make changes. I think that that's one thing that the Doherty article kind of said. Well, only if you're like super skilled can you do anything towards making changes. I think that's assumed. Like if we're not educating to make changes, then what are we educating for?
Right.
So the tools and the strategies I thought were a real important part of what we give as a family life educator. They imply change.
Well, and it seems like somewhere, maybe it was earlier in the semester, that we talked about FLE programs as being kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Preventive?
Yeah.
To be,
Preventative.
yeah, that if you can, I think if you can educate somebody before it gets too far, that they need to have some of those, like the therapist or which there's a time and a place for all of those. But I think that if you can educate before it has to come to these other ones that are coming in, that's a good thing.
Right, definitely. Absolutely. So 4 says, what types of services are you most qualified to provide for families as a family life educator, as a family therapist, or as a family case manager? So they did a super great job of breaking this out. Um, so I said the family case manager helps families comply with legal and policy systems and locate resources. Um, and then a family therapist helps families repair relationships and functioning. And so the family case manager deals with the present. It's just what's happening right now. So family therapist deals with how the past affects the present and the future. And then a family life educator helps families build knowledge and skills. And they talk about how the present will affect the future. So how skill building today can influence behavior down the road.
Yes. There was like that chart or something, right?
Yeah, they had a bunch
Kind
of
of broke
all
it down.
parts. Yeah, and they said, it all goes towards support of the family. That's what all of our goals are, but
Yeah.
we come at it from these 3 different angles.
Yes. All right. Why is it so important that whatever our training is, we understand our limits and boundaries when working with families? I think that goes back to the ethics part that you need to know. Was it this one that was talking about the different tiers?
Different
Yeah,
tiers
right.
of
Oh yeah,
what?
the first one that broke it down into the different tiers, that this is level 1 is this, level 2 is this, level 3 is
Yeah, that was um,
the
was it
the first one, right?
the Doherty
Yeah.
article.
Yeah. So, so I think you do need to know your limits from an ethical standpoint so that you're not, I think if you go past your limit or what you're trained to, then you can do some harm. And so I think that's why it's important. And I want to say it talked about that somewhere, that you can do more harm than if you stay in your area of expertise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it all comes down to, is that you are in a position where you could do harm. So, gotta stay away from that. And
Well,
so,
and it also could always come back to hurt you. Like, well, she said blah, 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 you know.
yeah, right, you do have to protect yourself, huh? Protect yourself both legally and your reputation, also, and the reputation of the field.
Yeah.
So the last one, does the Myers-Walls article help you to see why it is so important as an FLE to not slide into the role of a counselor or therapist, and explain your thoughts? And to me, that article didn't really say so much why it was bad to be a counselor therapist when you're not, so much as it said um, it's not what you do. Like, what you do is important as an FLE. So be good at that. You know, um, you get you have all this background on such a wide variety of topics, and you've learned how to educate and how to kind of synthesize application and education, all that into one. So do that, because that's what you're good at. And kind of emphasize the idea that those other groups will need you for that. So do what you're good at.
Right. Yeah, I was the same way. I don't know that it helped me to see why it's so important. I was thinking that FLE, it's kind of like counselors and therapists are often just trained in one area, like
Mm-hmm.
a marriage counselor. So you focus on marriage, where a family life educator could really do so many more and be knowledgeable in so many different areas of family life rather than one specific area.
Right.
So, like you said, to be good at what you do. And I mean, it could just be that you just teach parenting classes and that's all that you teach. But I mean, it's so much broader than that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think I'm really glad I have this background going into working as a therapist for towards being a therapist. Just because, like, they're not going to teach this. The stuff that we've learned here isn't stuff that they're going to cover in my master's work. They're not
Right.
going to talk about. We're not going to have a class on parenting in my master's work. We're not, So I'm really grateful to have that background. So I feel like I will be one of those therapists who can do the education piece, which is in the beginning, I really wanted to work with the LifeStar program, which uh, helps with pornography addiction and its effect on the system. So it treats
Uh-huh.
the both partners, and it's highly. They call it psychoeducational, where you do a lot of teaching, especially in the beginning phase of it. It's kind of a workshop when you start off. Um, so this is really going to be helpful to me if I do decide to go that route.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's definitely an area that is in need.
Yep, yep. And every time I think, oh, it's not as big a problem as I thought, I talk to somebody else, and they're dealing with it in their family, and I talk to somebody else and they're dealing with it in their family. It's a problem everywhere. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, unless you have any other thoughts, that's all our questions.
I don't. I think we did great.
Hurrah, hooray! All right, I will turn off the broadcast then.